Boys and girls. Look, I've had a couple of questions on Facebook. Ook send me a mail as well, wanting to know if I've ever done a GE. You obviously didn't watch the older videos, but that's okay, that's okay. Yes, I did. In the beginning, the guys, when we started with Cape Gauge 1, when Jan Gous was doing the class 34 GM, and that was basically, and Loki did the 36 GM. But nobody did a GE, so I bit the bullet and I bought it. But I bought the 32 class. Wait, walk with me, it's actually out. Remember this one? I built this one by hand with body putty and pieces of ABS that I stretched over. Yes, so it looks a bit like a dog's breakfast. But this loco actually started it all, because then I saw, look, I can do it. I must just find another way, because it was just too difficult. And then I started wandering into this whole 3D printing business. And, then people always think, you sit in front of the 3D printer, press a button that says GE, you press it and boop, a GE pops out the other side. No, it doesn't work like that. It needs to be drawn. It needs to be designed and all that. And at that time, I got hold of a guy in New Zealand, Peter Bryant, and he did one of the New Zealand locos that was very, very close to our 34 GE, bar the nose that we had to design here, and a couple of other small little things. But the proportions was right, and we just changed the vents and stuff. And on the other side as well, these, we just changed them to the right places, did the saddle filter, and bada. But I think I sold 4 or 5 of them and bought myself 2. And, it was always bugging me that the finish wasn't like I wanted it. Now, they were very good, because I used to spend 6 days sanding a print. Now, if you look at this, this specific one, to get rid of the print lines, I remember I did resin, UV resin over it, cured it in the sun, and then sanded it again. What inevitably happens is, you get stuff like that where bolts and nuts, just becomes blobs, and, they're not pronounced. And if it catches sunlight, I don't know if this one was actually, that stuff worked well. But there are places on the roof, for instance, as well, where you could see that it was a print, which was something that I tried to weather away. You see there how rough it was there on the battery box. That's where that resin actually pulled. It pulls around these, so you don't get a very pronounced bolt. The detail tends to go away. Also, you will see that the door handles were all square, which was the New Zealand one, where ours were round. Very few people actually picked that up, unless you tell them. But yeah, that was what we could do at the time, and that is how things went forward. And then I met Tim and Fiona, my current printers, the team, and she can design. So we then did a class 33 that I never built, because I just never got around to it. And we also did a 32, which that body is actually very nice. I must actually build that train. And wara. But as we progressed and we started growing in this hobby, we did the first, and it's the funniest thing, This train actually started the whole cladding thing, because this was still wood. I cut this here on the laser cutter out of MDF. And then this piece here was printed separately and glued on. But as you can see, there's no bolts here or whatever. And this here was laser cut separately and glued on. There was a lot of things that I added. All these are perspex. Okay, it's not focusing. Perspex things that I cut and shaped and stuck on afterwards. And that's, I think, where the whole idea started of, maybe building a train as a shell and then attaching all the detail. And that's exactly what we did. These ones also had a little, I won't say it's a problem, but let's show you the other side. The centerpiece here had doors that could open, and I put the motor in there, as you can see there. It was all a very nice, novel idea. However, this thing here with the doors was a basic 3D printed framework in which I put the motor. And it doesn't matter how hard I tried, you could never get it that it's strong enough like the rest of the body, or as strong as the rest of the body. So sometimes if you try and pick this thing up here, if I do that, I can actually feel that it's flexing. I hate that. I like a loco that if you pick it up, it must break your arm off, and it must weigh 6 kgs plus, and it must not have a flimsy bit in it. If there is a flimsy bit, I will put steel in it if I have to. Like the new chassis I make, that's a steel welded ladder frame, which I clad with PG, and then, that adds like 1.2 kgs to the weight of the loco. Also, back in those days, I've got, there's the laser cutter over there. So I had the laser cutter. So the chassis was also MDF wood. And the guy said to me, you can't use MDF. That stuff will, if it gets wet or whatever. This loco is now 3 years old. It ran in the rain at Centurion. We had a flood here 2 years ago where my roof caved in there. All right. And it stood in the rain. It was, the water was running out of it. And never had a problem. If it's sealed with paint, MDF is actually quite a good material. It gives very good sound. This tank was the printed tank. The first one I built actually had a wooden tank as well. And I got very good sound out of that. But to get to the point, as I say, I sold about 4 of them, and then the GM started coming in, and I started printing with PG, and we started taking stuff off and rebuilding it. They started looking a hell of a lot better. And so I obviously started selling more of those than of these. The last one I built, 34 GM was for GE, was for Carl de Campos, the guy in Cape Town. And with that thing, I remember 11 days, 7-8 hours a day with a micro sander, I sanded that body. And that was a good body. That was a very, very good train, that. And then he was running it in his yard there, and the sun caught it, because I know I was looking at stuff, and you can still see that there's a faint print line here and there. I don't like that. That's not on. I want 3D printed trains that look steel, and heavy. They must look heavy. They mustn't look plastic. They must look heavy. And that's a hell of a thing to do. Anyway, so the guys asked me, so why aren't you doing 34Gs? And I said to them, because we are redesigning them. Now, the 35 GE is going to go first, like I showed you the other night. And this one is busy getting redesigned. Look, we'll see if we can do this, but I think I will drop this whole frame thing in the middle and just make it solid like the others. It's nice to see the motor there, but it was never wow. And I think the balance sheet of it being pretty and strong didn't balance. I don't like a thing being flimsy, so I will rather let that go and make it stronger. So there's a whole new train in the making. After the 35 GE, we're going to tackle it. Johnny Brits in Australia ordered one from me, a 34 GE, that I said to him, look, it's only going to be next year because there's a whole lot of stuff that needs to happen. I'm like 50 wagons behind. I need to build Stellenbosch Station still. I'm in so much trouble, it's not even funny. So that's a project for next year. So we can take our time with this thing and get it right. Now, some of the guys in that new 3D printing room where I joined, I don't think understand what I mean by attaching stuff separately. Now, that body there, you can see that is absolutely naked. And all the parts will now be stuck on there. The doors will be done separate. There will be handles in the doors, so it'll just look prettier. And just as a matter of interest, these pilots were more or less the same on the 35 and the 34. And you can just see there the difference in detail from where we were to where we are now. I think I love a 34 GE because of the sound it makes. It's just such a nice loco. It's shorter than the GM. It's a little bit more gay because it's rounded and it's more ladylike. It's dainty almost. But there's something about it. I love the big tank, and they make good sound because of that. So, dudes, that's why. That's why there's no GEs coming out at the moment, while 34s. But give me a gap. Give me a gap. I think if I rebuild this thing on the new type of spec, it will be phenomenal. It will be a very good loco. So, right, hang in there, dudes. Hang in there. We'll do them. Goed, julle ouens. Right, tot ziens.